All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whenever you hear this message, I pray that you are poised to receive, to accept, and to respond to words of wisdom. Ashe. So, if you followed my work over the years, you know that one of the organizing principles of my teachings is the importance of, not even the importance, the indispensability of mastering your natural gifts and talents. Over and over and over and over again, I can't overstate it. You have to focus on your natural gifts and talents. That's ground zero for everything that you want to do as a practitioner of Orisha lifestyle. I can't emphasize it enough. Like, you're going nowhere. At this stage in the game, you're going nowhere without your natural gifts and talents. That's your foundation. That's your focus. That's the how can we say, the runway. If you envision yourself as a plane and you're going to take off, or you're a helicopter, it's your launch pad, your natural gifts and talents is everything. Nothing is happening without them. All right. And there's several reasons why I say that and why I emphasize it so strongly. And today I want to share a lesson with you that I don't really emphasize enough. And it came in the wake of performing my worship this morning for the temple. And the lesson is this: your natural gifts and talents are essential for you to understand your capacity and your limitations. Your capacity, meaning how much weight can you really carry? How much energy can you really embody for real? Right? And therefore, what are the real, actual limitations to your ability? Now, the reason why this matters is because, straight out, point blank, the overwhelming majority of you who are operating in this space, what we call, let's say, spiritual space, are in a fantasy world. And you like being in a fantasy world, and people are going to cater to and pander to your fantasy about you could do anything and you can be anything and you are all. It's not true. And ultimately, in your heart of hearts, you know it's not true, right? You talking about you could do this and you can do that, or you could do this with herbs and you can do that as a diviner, and you could do this ritual and that ceremony, and you can initiate people into this, and you can blah, 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 and you can't. You can't. You can barely rub your belly and tap your head. You can barely chew gum and walk, right? The truth of the matter is you are barely functional. And I don't mean this in a disparaging way. I just mean that this is the reality of what it means to be a human being. This is why people work and operate in groups, because your limitations are so much greater than you think. Your ego and your mind will tell you all kinds of stuff. This is why we have Ajapa the tortoise. He just is excessive. He's excessive. But in reality, Ajapa is so limited. He's so limited that the veranda of his house is not even big enough for his children to seek shade, right? The tortoise lives in a shell, and he's got a little ridge on the shell. And if he tucks his head in, he can get some shade. But his children can't even get shade in his house. It's a metaphor for our limitations, our real limitations as people. Our minds tell us everything, because Ajapa is the most talented, the most creative, the most, right? But in practice, he can't do all that. Likewise, you can't do all that. You can just think about all that. But when it comes time to execute once, twice, 3 times, 5 times, 10 times, over 5 years, over 10 years, over 15 years, you can't do all of that. And the evidence is in the fact that you haven't done all that. Right? That's the reality check. So it's only to the degree that you really lean into your natural gifts and talents that you will accept your true capacity and your true limitations. And the sooner you come into direct contact with your limitations, you're going to be able to say, I need you. Honestly and sincerely, no matter how hard I try and no matter how much energy I exert, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is as far as I can go on my own. In order for me to realize this dream and manifest this vision, I need you. And you need to come to that realization in your heart of hearts. And it's exhibited all over the place. That's why we have 256 Odu Ifa. One Odu is not going to do it. That's why we have up to 1,700 deities. One Orisha can't do it. Maintaining the universe in perfect order isn't the job of a single Odu or a single Orisha. We need each other, but you need to acknowledge that in the depths of your soul. Very important, your natural gifts and talents, if you go in on them and you really maximize them and optimize them, you will know beyond the shadow of a doubt what your limitations are. Now, as long as you're operating outside of your natural gifts and talents, you're going to be suffering from an unnamed, undefined angst and frustration because you're trying to do too much. You're trying to be the one-man band, right? And it's just, you can't do it. And so your perhaps conditioned response to being limited and being frustrated is that you want to exert more control. You want to take on more. You want to do more, right? But the more you try to exert control, the more frustrated and more overwhelmed you become, right? And so the reality of it is you don't want or need more control. What you need is you need more containment. You need a little nice cocoon, an environment that's conducive to your natural gifts and talents. And you need to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that what you're doing in your container is going to complement what I'm doing in my container, is going to complement what she's doing in her container, is going to complement what he's doing in his container, and all of the areas in which we're contained and safe and secure and able to function and optimize our natural gifts and talents. That's what's going to create a system where we interact with one another and create an ecosystem, an environment that allows us all to flourish. But in order to accomplish that, you need to be contained. And in order to be contained, you have got to surrender. You've got to accept that certain things are going to be in place that are going to help all of us do what we do best. Now, as an American, you're going to push back on that. As an American, you're going to push back on that. And let me say, as an African American, I know beyond the shadow of a doubt, you're going to push back on that. All kind of triggers are going off in your mind because you think that this means someone is controlling you. You think that someone is constricting you. You interpret it as somebody is trying to even take your glory and your ashe and your legacy and your destiny and all that. Those, I understand the feelings are real. The feelings are real, but you got to grow up. You got to mature. You got to get beyond that. You have to let those feelings of powerlessness go. You got to manage those feelings, right? And you manage them by using your better judgment to align yourself with people who are really leaders. Now, I'm going to take it all the way back for the purposes of an analogy, and then we'll come forward with some real-time, configurations. I used to be a preschool teacher. I used to teach preschool Spanish. And sometimes, like once a week, we take the children to the library. Also, I ran a summer camp, which I had children from age 3 to 12. And, I'd have them in the woods. And we go sometimes on a field trip. In either case, the children had to be in uniform. I tell them what to wear. The children, when we go from one place to another, if we're going on a hike, you got to go in formation. This is your buddy. Y'all walk side by side. When we get to certain places, you have to hold hands. This is our area. This is where we eat. This is when we eat. These are the parameters of where you can go. Beyond that tree line, you can't go. Beyond that path, you cannot go. You can play on this playground. You can play in the creek on this area. You can pick these berries. I had to give all the details of the parameters of where we're operating. Not because I had a need to control the children, but because that's me demonstrating my forethought and assuming responsibility for their well-being. I have picked this location because I know that from this location, I can sit here and I can see all the points of entry. From this place, I can keep my eye on all the children. I know where everybody is just by doing a panoramic view like this. And because everyone's wearing what they're supposed to be wearing, I'm looking for yellow shirts and green pants. It allows me to create an environment that is safe. Now, within this environment, you are free to move and do whatever you want. But you got to operate within the container that I have created for you. Right? So with that, once you've done it and we've played in that space, hey, Baba's looking out for me. I'm having a super good time. This is so much fun. And anytime something happens, Baba's there right on the spot to help us put things back in order. So containment requires compliance, surrender, agreement. And the more you do it, the more you realize this is cool. That is how I demonstrate my leadership. In a bigger picture, I'm creating more and more of a well-defined vision. But that vision is intended to leave space for each and every participant to also impose their vision and express themselves and they optimize all of their natural gifts and talents. That's the balance between my vision, as creating a space container, and within that space, leaving enough blank, open area, unstructured, undefined area for you to create and define and express and invite us to come into your world and do what you do. They all work together if your leadership is effective. Now, as a practitioner of Orisha lifestyle, what you got to understand is that in the tradition, eldership means leadership. So you pick, and this is where it's important for you. You pick your elders according to their vision. You don't go into deeper into the fantasy that you're just going to do it by yourself. You're not. And if you're not going to choose elders who are telling you and encouraging you to defy the order. They have some people who've been around for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, but they're not actually elders in the sense that they're not part of the cohesive body. They're not assuming responsibility for your well-being. They're doing nothing and encouraging you to do the same. There are people who have been living in the fantasy world of you can do anything, you can be anything, but they haven't actually done anything. But because they've been living in this fantasy world for 10 years, 15 years, it looks like they're in a position to tell you, yeah, you could just go on. You could go on. You don't have to follow the rules. You don't have to be contained. You don't have to let anybody, rule over you and right? Those people are leading you astray. They're leading you astray. Your elders are doers. Your elders have accomplished things. Your elders are leaders who are able to create an environment and set parameters and organize people and systems in such a way that you can see that they get results, and that when you adhere to the structure that they have in place, you also get results. Those are the real elders and leaders. That is the reality of the situation. You need to choose elders in this tradition who have demonstrated the ability to do. And doing includes creating an environment that enables other people to do. Eldership means creating an environment that is built into Isheshe. It is inextricable. If you guys follow over the few years, right, last couple of years, I make a joke of it. Now, I've been traveling internationally since I was 17. And I mean, at least once a year since I was 17. I'm 56. So you can do the math on how many tens of thousands of miles I have traveled and how many countless scenarios I have encountered in Africa, in Latin America, in the Caribbean, in Europe, in North America. I am a seasoned traveler. I've gone through multiple passports. Okay? But when I get to Nigeria, I'm going there in the capacity of a devotee. They don't let me leave the compound by myself. Everywhere I go, somebody is with me. Everything that I want to do, somebody accompanies me. Right? And so, I'll make a joke because, being precocious, I'll make a run for it sometimes. Right? I just try to branch out. Right? It's in us, I think, as African Americans. Right? It's definitely within me. It's always been an attribute of mine since I was very young. I'm going to make a run for it. And I'm going to get out there and see what I can see. And 9 times out of 10, they discover me and meet me on the way back. Right? But what am I trying to illustrate there? The people aren't trying to control me. They're trying to demonstrate that they are assuming responsibility for me. Obafemi, what do you need? I need this. Hey, make sure he has this. What do you need? I need that. Make sure he has that. Hey, what do you need? I need to go to this place. Make sure he gets to that place. Because even though they recognize me as a full-grown functioning adult, it's still the same dynamic as I was saying is, these are my campers in my summer camp. These are my preschoolers. I am demonstrating responsibility for you. I'm not trying to control you. I am making sure that you have a rich experience and that everything that you need in order to enjoy yourself is in place. I am demonstrating my commitment to your well-being by securing your environment. That is what the elders do in the realm of Yoruba tradition. I'll give you one more example because my video is going long. Before I was initiated to anything, I used to hang out with Nigerian elders, right? So I had to been of like my late 20s, and I was surrounding myself with, Nigerian men who were, probably in their 50s, 60s on average. I don't think too many of them were, like into their 70s, mostly like in their 50s and 60s. And I remember once I went we went and had coffee. There was an elder who had a daughter who was a grad student, and she was some kind of a brilliant doctor to be. And she lived with him, her father, with her daughter, and he would keep his granddaughter. And so sometimes I would go there and hang out with him and his granddaughter, and we would do what he called guerrilla gardening, guerrilla like in guerrillero, not gorilla in the the monkey gorilla, but guerrilla, a warrior. Anyway, it comes from Spanish. A guerrilla comes from the word Spanish, guerrilla. Anyway, he would go out and basically forage, right? He would go out and snatch a little sprig of this flower and a sprig of that plant from the neighbors. He would come home, put them in the plants, and him and his granddaughter would be propagating all this beautiful stuff in the garden. So anyway, one day he and I went for coffee, and we order the coffee and pastries or whatever, and I went to go and pay, and as a show of respect, like what I mean. That's, for me, it was a show of respect. Let me invite you, and as is customary in America, right? He says, no, I'll pay. And I was like, no, Papa, please, I'll pay. And we did one round of that. And then he looked at me with this real, like, super stern, just like, no, you will not pay. I'm the elder. Am I not capable of paying for your coffee? And I felt it, like, because he's always super light and you know what I'm saying? And very, very, very gentle. But, I exceeded the boundary right there. I was, I was preempting him, being presumptuous, according to the culture and the tradition. And he put me, in check. Like, hey, I'm the elder. I can pay for your coffee. You don't buy my coffee, young buck. Right? And so he was demonstrating responsibility. He was taking responsibility for our experience. Okay? So this is a long, drawn out way to illustrate for my people what it means to be a part of the tradition. It's the tradition is part of the culture, and the culture is entirely built upon age seniority. Everything points to the elders within Yoruba tradition, within Yoruba culture. Everything points to the elders. And the elders are the ones who assume the greatest level of responsibility. The elders are the ones who are creating the environment and the container within which you are invited to flourish, to grow, and to, really enjoy yourself. Now, naturally, you're born into a lineage of elders and things like that. But here, the way Orisha is playing out for us now, it is incumbent upon you as the practitioner and the devotee to choose your elders wisely. Choose elders who are visionary. Choose elders who are doers. Align yourself with them. This is why I say from the very beginning, you go back 15 years, I've been saying the same thing. Discover your natural gifts and talents. Optimize them. And find someone to give them to. Find some elder. Find some temple. Find some body who you feel is worthy of your natural gifts and talents, and give them to them. You're going to have to figure out what your capacity is, right? You may not be able to give your natural gifts and talents 50 hours a week, 40 hours a week. You might only have 5 hours a week. But if that's what you got to give your natural gifts and talents, you're a painter, you're a carpenter, you're a dishwasher, you're a cook, you're whatever it is that you do, these are your natural gifts and talents. Say, hey, you know what? I'm going to give them to you. And give them. That is what is going to help you in this regard. Learn and discover your limitations and your true capacity. The other thing that it allows you to do is it allows you to observe. It allows you to maintain the degree and the extent of control over yourself and over the environment that you need as an American to feel confident, right? That you're not buying nothing from this person. If we say if you're giving them to me, you're not buying anything to me. I'm not initiating you into anything. You're not obliged. We're not being hooked up like that where you're doing something that does not match the level of trust and rapport that you and I have actually built. Because that's what happens. You starting off with these rituals, man, you bound to this person forever. And you don't even know them. You don't even like them. You don't even respect them. You just got something from them. And that's not what we're doing. You're not getting an iPhone from me. You're getting something that's going to make us inextricable. We're going to be bound forever through this ceremony, if you understand what it's about. So don't do that first. Optimize your natural gifts and talents. Give them away under the conditions that you can give. It's going to give you enough time to observe, to see who I am, to see how I work, to see who I'm surrounded by, and determine, hey, you know what? I want to give more. I want to go take our practice to the next level. Or that's cool. I had enough. You get to walk away. No harm, no foul. All right. So this is a lesson for the leaders. I'm sending this out to the leaders. If you're someone who wants to improve the world through positive influence, you want to use your natural gifts and talents in service of something greater than yourself, I want you to find out how Oloye Obafemi Origuwa and the Orisha Lifestyle Academy can help you take your practice and your life to the highest level possible. Visit me today at obafemio.com or orishalifestyle.com. Get busy. Let's start working together to help you live the medicine that will heal your life and heal the lives of those who you are destined to serve. Ashe.